Welcome to Mission Driven Founders, where passion meets purpose. If you're dreaming of starting your own business, whether it's in beauty, wellness, or beyond, you're in the right place. We are going behind the scenes with inspiring entrepreneurs who are not just building brands, but driving real change. Hit subscribe, tap the bell for updates, and stick around. This conversation could be the spark that ignites your journey. Today, we're excited to introduce Naina Jain. She is the founder of Marigold Life. And Marigold Life is a Nashville-based mom and baby brand rooted in Ayurvedic wisdom. Inspired by her own journey into motherhood, she created clean, nurturing products that support families through pregnancy and the first 1,000 days of life. Now, let's dive into Nina's inspiring journey and see how she's contributing to our movement and making a difference in the world. Nina, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and glad that we're finally able to make it work.
That's true. That's true because we did schedule a few times and now it worked.
Yes.
So, your brand's journey is really, truly inspiring. I love Ayurveda. I grew up with Ayurveda. My dad is from India. So, when I met you and tested your products, I said, oh my goodness, this is perfect. And especially your mission of supporting parents during the first 1,000 days, which I think is it's the hardest period, right? When you have a
Yes.
baby.
Yes. And I think the 1,000 days start with pregnancy, right? I struggled with getting pregnant. I had to like really think about, the products I was using, everything from cleaning products to what I was putting on my body. And it just made me realize how much of the lifestyle I grew up, similar to you, like my grandfather was an Ayurvedic practitioner. I grew up in India, and like those practices were just part of my daily lifestyle, how much of that I missed and how big of an impact it had on me. And that essentially was, and then it became worse as pandemic happened and my baby got a rash and whatnot. And then I was just like, wow, I really just need to go back to my roots. But then also I realized there was a real void in the market. Like there's tons of quote clean products, but there's nothing that I felt was truly based in Ayurvedic herbs, which have been around for thousands of years, have been studied, have been researched, have been proven. And even the clean products are not as clean sometimes as we think.
That's true. And I've noticed that a lot of Ayurvedic claims, they're very like superficial, right?
Mhm.
You see people using the term Ayurveda, Ayurvedic products, but they don't really understand the whole history behind Ayurveda, which I think you bring because you lived it, right?
Mhm.
And it's in your roots. I mean, your grandfather was an Ayurvedic practitioner. How more embedded in your roots is that? I love it. I love the history. And can you take us back to the moment that it all began? You told us a little bit about, you
Yeah.
had your baby had a rash and pandemic hit and all that. So what sparked the idea? What was that aha moment for you? And how did you turn that into this reality, which are these beautiful products you have today?
So it was middle of pandemic. My second kiddo was about 6 months old and she had a rash. And I think it was something about being in that environment that you were just skeptical about everything anyways. And we went to our pediatrician who wanted to put her on steroids, which was just like it just gave me a minute of pause. I'm like, she's 6 months old and like we don't really need to be doing this. And so I came back home and I thought about it and I was like, you know what? This is not a unique problem. Like lots of babies have rashes and not everybody gets stuck on steroids. So I went on Amazon. I ordered all the herbs that I thought I knew would work for her. And I was like, turned my kitchen into a chemistry lab for a lack of a better word. And made an oil that I was like, the practice of Abhyanga, which is like a daily oil massage. We were doing that already. We were just using like a basic oil. And so I added in all these herbs. And 2 weeks later, she was cleared. And then I was like, huh. And my husband, who has psoriasis, also started using it. He's like, I wonder if it'll work for me. And sure enough, it works for him. And that's when I realized like, I don't necessarily need to go, not that there's anything wrong with steroids. I think, if you need them, absolutely. But growing up with Ayurveda, it's always a nature first approach. And that's what I wanted to follow with my family. And then it just became a thing where I started actually with writing about Ayurveda. I had no intent of ever launching products or anything like that. I was just educating, like how saffron can be really great for depression and how moms can incorporate it when they're going through postpartum and so on and so forth. And I built up this following on Instagram. And then my friends were like, hey, can you make me a batch of this? And can you make me a batch of that? And then I was like, okay, maybe there's something to it. Like maybe there is a big enough need that I need to like go in the market. And I started with the baby oil and the diaper rash cream, which essentially was solving my own problems. And then after that came the skincare line, which I was nursing and wanted to use something that was effective, but didn't have all the acids or the chemicals that would transpose. And so then came the skincare line. And then it just kind of grew from there. Very organically, just locally working with local boutiques in Nashville, just going to workshops, teaching folks about yoga, Ayurveda, and like just basic practices. And it's been very organic and very fulfilling.
I love that because you just naturally started creating all these products and your friends, for your husband, for your children. And that's the most beautiful way to start because you're really, fulfilling a need, a gap that was there and now you have what everyone really needs for their baby. And with the skin food trend becoming stronger and stronger every year. It
Mhm.
seems like in 2026, skin food is going to be so skin food, translates into a lot of things that Ayurveda has been practicing for thousands and thousands of
Mhm.
years. You are what you eat and what you put on your plate, what you put on your skin. Everything should be non-toxic, natural, edible, right? Not just
Yeah.
what you put in your body, but also on your body.
Yeah,
So
you're not going to eat it, don't put it on your body. And that's so true to like Ayurveda. And just like, hey, if you're not going to go find it in nature and put it and like be okay consuming it, it probably doesn't belong on your body either.
exactly. It's really about feeding your body in and out with what is safe and what you can find in nature. And even in nature, sometimes there's things that you cannot eat. So
Mhm.
you have to have that wisdom, right? Yeah, this is so important to really educate people on. I love that. And tell us about your ideal customer and how do you envision your products making a difference in their lives? How do you also connect with them on a personal level? You started through Instagram,
Mhm.
educating and gaining followers and your friends. How did you expand that community?
Yeah. If I think about my ideal customer, it's first time mom or a mom that's pregnant, essentially. And I think, particularly for first time moms, it's a very fulfilling yet a nerve wracking experience because all of a sudden you're like, I'm growing this human, and now I just need to be conscious about all my life choices. And then when you first have your, OBGYN midwife appointment and they're like, don't use this and don't use that. And then you go down a deep Google rabbit hole, as most women I talk to do. And it's really for those women to be able to trust Marigold Life to be like, okay, these products are clean, are researched, have ingredients that I can feel comfortable using, not just during pregnancy, but then also through postpartum when I'm, your hormones are changing and you're reacclimating and you're may or may not be nursing. And there's just like a whole bunch of things happening. And then also for their babies to be like, okay, I went through this very natural process. And the first 2 years for the baby is really when the muscles are developing, the bones are developing, and you want to be as clean and as nurturing and nourishing. And that's what Marigold Life products really are. And so that's what it's all really about. And I'm hoping that most moms or moms looking for those solutions can find Marigold Life. Um, in terms of how I grew my community, it's interesting because I always focused on education more than I did on sales. And so it was really for me about writing blogs like, hey, you all of a sudden people will see like, oh, saffron for everything, turmeric for everything. And to your earlier point, it's not one size fits all. Like you really have to think about and be conscious. Just because it's a natural or clean ingredient doesn't mean it will or will not work for you. And the blogs, I think, is what really got the following because a lot of the people who were interested and wanted to learn more found an avenue. They were able to have information in like small, digestible packets and not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go learn about Ayurveda and do a course or something like that. But it was just something that I published 2 times a month on things that were important to the ideal customer. Hey, I have swelling. What do I do about it? I, have postpartum acne. What can I put on it? Because you can't go put the stuff that you're going to find in a drugstore. So I think just being there and educating moms along the way and making them feel like they have a community, they're supported, is what it's still all about to me. I mean, I try to be out there in the community and be in as many local events as I can, attend or even go out there and meet moms, like to be like, how is it going for you? What has changed? Because pregnancy changes from when I was pregnant to when they're pregnant today. And just really listen to their stories. And I think it's really impactful.
It is. It's so important. The support is like really the most important thing to me. I feel
Mhm,
like that's what we built Crunchy Mama Box on community. We started
mhm,
with our, Facebook page and everybody organically coming in and moms, and then we had dads, and then we had, same gender parents saying we are lost. What should we do?
mhm,
So the support is really important. The education piece essential. I would not think about anything else, because if you are not educating your consumer, you can't just use a product just
mhm,
because someone told you, or it's a trend. You have to really understand what the ingredients are. Like you said, it's not a one size fits all. Some things don't work for some people and some
mhm.
things work for other people, right? I
Yeah.
think a good example might be like ginger. I used to say
Mhm.
ginger, ginger for everything, but people who have high blood pressure, they can't have ginger all the time.
Yeah.
It'll spike up their blood pressure. So you have to be careful also when, like that's why I get worried when I see people just recommending things and not really understanding that each person, each body is different, right?
I think that's what's unique about Ayurveda is like it's very personal to your body. It's about your constitution and how your body reacts to certain things, which I think is something that we've maybe lost touch with. We tend to do with like one size fits all. Like here's one diaper rash cream, and that should work for all the babies that are out there, and that may or may not be the case.
That's so true. And one thing really special about your diaper cream that I have to say, my baby, when she was little, she she was about one, she was already standing on her crib. She took a diaper rash cream that was on the counter, and it was not one like yours that is natural, and we had to almost take her to the hospital because she took it and she ate it. She ate the whole tube
Yeah.
and she got really sick. It was so scary. And I love that you have the baby, the diaper rash cream, and it is excellent, excellent quality, all natural. I love it. So, to the next question, before we start talking about your whole line, sustainability and ethical sourcing are at the heart of your brand. Can
Mhm.
you share the behind the scenes process of how you ensure every ingredient and packaging choice reflects your values? And also share with us any unique challenges you faced in staying true to this mission.
Yeah, I would say that was a long part of the journey when I decided to launch products. There were a couple of things, Ayurveda being being rooted in India, I could have easily gone with a manufacturer in India and been able to export products. But I very intentionally chose not to do that just because very few Indian manufacturers had the certifications that I was looking for. And so it took me over 6 months to find the manufacturers here in the United States that were doing clean sourcing, that I was able to go back to like how they were sourcing ingredients and make sure that they were clean. Were able to meet the Leaping Bunny certification, which they do the same thing, not only just cruelty testing, but they go back to the source to make sure it's ethical and it's clean. And that was a long process. And that took 6 months. And then once we kind of got there, it was about packaging because I want to be as sustainable as possible. And Ayurveda is served best in glass containers. So most of my line, to the extent I can, I will put in a glass container because it preserves the product, it's recyclable, it's just better for the environment. But there are certain things that are hard to do, particularly the baby products, because I don't want to put glass next to, like, I just think of like a baby massage roll sitting next to a baby's like bed. And I'm like, that baby's going to whack it over and there's going to be oil everywhere. For that, I went through even looking at tubes, for example. Could I get recycled tubes? Could I add another layer of reusability into that? And that's kind of what we went through. And then it's once you find the right, solution, then they may not come in the size you want or in the shape you want. And so it's somewhat limiting because I think it's getting a lot better in the sustainable packaging that we have out there. But I think it's definitely have to make an intentional choice because it's very easy to save a lot of money and time and just go with what a lot of the manufacturers are going to tell you to do because they have it in bulk, it's in plastic, they can easily transport it. But you really have to be committed. And that's, essentially for me, it was about the community and me offering something that I felt comfortable putting on my family that I would want to give to other moms. And so, yeah, that journey took a long time. And I don't think it's as easy. And I wonder how many other brands that are sustainable face that challenge as well.
What you're saying is what most brands share with us.
Yeah.
It's the packaging because people go with, sometimes
Mhm.
what's not just easier, but also what's affordable. Because when
Yes.
you're starting a brand,
Yeah.
you're not backed by millions of dollars that you can just say, okay, this is you, a mom that is fulfilling a big gap in the market, but you're doing it, you're bootstrapping, you're self-funding your business, and you can't just go $1 million big corporation style, because that's not who you are. But
Yeah.
you're really being thoughtful of what you're putting into people's houses. So it's a huge challenge. So when people see a packaging from a small brand or somebody that's just starting, that yes, of course, you have potential to be huge, but you're starting. So
Yeah.
you have these challenges, and that's when I think communities like ours, like CMB and Crunchy Mama Box, we come in and we help support these brands, because you're wearing so many hats. You're doing the marketing, you're sourcing, you're creating your products, the formulating, and manufacturing started in your kitchen, and now you probably have a whole infrastructure. But it starts small. So
It
consumers
does.
have to have patience and understand and support small brands, because you're not just bulk, you're not just like creating these huge massive inventory of the same chemical product that costs cents. You're creating a product that really has value, and sometimes it's not as inexpensive, but you still manage to make it affordable, because that's how mindful you are of other families and other people, that you want everybody to afford what you're doing, but the knowledge is invaluable that you're sharing.
Oh, thank you. And to your point, if it wasn't for the community like CMB and others who have started, and you have to be really scrappy, I'm sure, as you know, when you're starting out, and you're trying to learn as much as you can, it really takes a village to launch a brand. It truly does. And, you learn everything you can from folks that have come before you and the communities that have solved the problem before. And you're like, oh, wow, I don't have to spend 2 hours researching this. Somebody just gave me a solution that is going to work. I'm very thankful for that. And I think this experience has been very humbling and also very educating for me, because I didn't realize what it took for a small brand to be out there in the market till I did it myself. And now I make that choice conscientiously, even in the things that I buy on a day-to-day basis. Even if I have to buy a chair, I'll go find the local person who's out there versus like going on Wayfair or Amazon. Sure, it's cheaper, but I feel like I have such an appreciation now for the thought, love, and the heart that they're putting in their product, which is amazing.
And the behind the scenes of mass production is not always pretty.
No.
We know what happens, right? The fair trade, the child labor, very low wages that they pay. So I think that when you're a small business and you're trying to make everything as ethical, sustainable, transparent as possible, that has a lot of value. And when you're sourcing locally, that has a lot of value also.
Hmm.
You're helping families, you're not just helping, shareholders in a huge corporation that is not really sometimes being as ethical. There are huge corporations that try to be ethical, but not all of them are, we know. So I think what you said, the community, the support, and the consumers being so aware, like conscious consumerism is not a trend, it's here to stay. People
Hmm.
read labels, people are interested in stories, the brand founder, why they started that, their mission, their values, what's the purpose of that business. So that has a lot of meaning. I agree with you. I love that. Building a brand is also a journey filled with highs and lows, like we talked about. You
Yes.
want to tell us about one particularly tough moment and how you pushed through and the key lesson it taught you as a founder?
Oh wow, I had so many.
You can
um,
share more than one if you want to.
yeah. I always joke around that. I was like, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of the heart. Like, you really, really, really have to have a very strong will. I will say it's probably the first year when I was going into territories I knew nothing about. Like, yes, I use social media, but I don't know how to set up a whole social media strategy or a campaign or this, that, and the other. And I was up at wee hours of the night just working on stuff. And I think one day I walked up to my husband, who's been a huge supporter, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm done. I think I'm going to just shut this off. I'm going to go back to blogging and educating. And he's like, okay, why don't you give it just a few more months and just see what happens? And I was like, okay. And then he was like, whatever you need. He's like, if you need me to package boxes, you need me to, put labels. And I can't tell you how many times we've sat on the kitchen and he's been there making samples along with me. It really has taught me that, yes, it's difficult. But if you truly want to do it and you love what you're doing, you find a way to make it work through. Like, I have never complained about staying up to like 1 a.m. at night, just writing blogs, not once. Um, but I complain about staying up at 1 a.m. and doing other things. And it just, it's just so interesting because it made me realize that this is what I'm truly meant to do. And this is truly fulfilling my bucket as well. Like, I get joy out of this. That's kind of like, that's what made it work for me. But there are definitely days where I'm like, this is too much. I got to be done. And then you really need that support system to be like, nope, you got this. Like, we'll be there to help you. And it really, at the end of the day, boils down to community. Like, even the local retailers are like, hey, we'll feature you, we'll do this, we'll do that. And it's just so amazing to have that, because without that, it's a very lonely journey.
It is very lonely. There is a lot of pressure. And like you said, the support at home and even outside, like with your retailers and your consumers and the communities you belong to, it's so important.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the giving back chain, where brands and consumers unite to support the planet and community. How does your brand give back? And are there any partnerships or causes that you're especially proud of?
Um, I love to, I'm not committed to one charity necessarily that I give back to, but I tend to focus on, once again, local. I'll find local chapters. So there is like Motherhood Tennessee here. There's few Mom Support Mom or Mom Help Mom, and I try to work with them on, the needs that happen. Sometimes is just sharing extra products because they can use it, and sometimes it's, making a commitment about certain percentage of proceeds going to them. um, but I like to make sure that it is within the same ecosystem that I feel really close to, which generally tends to be moms and babies and all of that. And I hope that one day I can work with like a bigger organization, something like March for Dimes, that can be supported at a national level. But till I till I can get there, I'm here to support the community who is here supporting me. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
And supporting the local community goes a long way. Sometimes we think that we're doing a little bit, but the ripple effect is huge. So, what you're doing as a small business owner, I don't know if you're a team or if it's just you, it's really impressive and it creates a big impact.
Thanks. And I just like one of the local, there's a Beauty Boost Nashville group, and Beauty Boost is a national organization, but they have local chapters. And they tend to host events that are curated, mostly women focused. And one of the events, I couldn't make it. I was supposed to do an education class, and and it was really focused on Ayurveda and yoga. And I was like, you know what? I can't make it, but I'll donate products. And it was so rewarding. Months later, somebody from Instagram reached out and they're like, I got your product at this event and it is amazing. Thank you so much for like helping me learn about this and like giving me the opportunity to try it. And it's like, to your point, the ripple effect may not be immediate, but it's definitely there. It comes back.
It really does. And Nina, last question, I promise. Marigold Life meets all the criteria for the CMB certification, which your brand is certified on,
Mhm.
and reflects your commitment to transparency, sustainability, clean ingredients, performance, and social impact. Because you don't, you can't just be a clean product. You have to do what you promise. You have to perform, right? And your products do. So, how has the CMB certification helped validate these standards and elevate trust and recognition for your brand?
That's an amazing question, because I think CMB is such a fantastic community. And honestly, till I belong to it, I didn't realize how many people rely on it. And every time like I post on social media, whether I tag CMB or CMB tags me, the engagement is phenomenal, and folks just recognize the very high standards that you set, because not everyone can meet those standards. And to your point, a lot of people offer clean products, but they don't offer everything else that goes along with it. So being a part of that community has been amazing for me. I think being a community that speaks specifically to moms looking for that natural holistic lifestyle is been amazing for me. And I think it gives, as a new brand, um it's really expensive to get certifications. Like, you can't necessarily go out and get like a gluten-free certification or a vegan certification. but being able to be part of this community and then also offer comfort to your consumer that the standards are high and you meet the bar has been really great. So I really appreciate you and the team for doing that.
That is so amazing to hear because we try to be as holistic as possible when it comes to the certification and the support we give both the brands and the education for the consumer because we really want people to make informed decisions about their health. And we want to support brands that are like you, starting small, but with huge potential because you are on the right track. You're doing the right thing. So I want to thank you, Nina, for sharing your inspiring journey and for all the work that you do to create a more sustainable and conscious world. You've shown us that businesses can truly be a force for good.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the support that the team offers. It's really been great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us, for sharing everything. And to everyone watching, remember every choice we make can shape the future. So let's choose wisely, live intentionally, and support those who are making a difference. So stay inspired, stay motivated, and let's keep building a brighter future together.